Some people think strength comes from muscles or money, but real power comes from patience, discipline, and the courage to face yourself. This story will show how even the smallest efforts can create a life full of light. Jean was a young man who loved to sleep late and scroll endlessly on his phone. He often dreamed of doing something great, but he never left his small, messy room. "Why bother?" he muttered, staring at the clock for the fifth time. One morning, his grandmother knocked on the door. "Jean," she said gently, "stop waiting for life to happen. Life is happening now." Jean frowned. Her words sounded simple, but somehow they hit him like a strange little spark. Later that day, Jean wandered outside, feeling restless. He saw a monk balancing on a thin pillar of light in the village square. People were staring, mouths open, but the monk looked calm, almost glowing. Jean whispered to himself, "How is he doing that?" A little girl nearby laughed. "He doesn't jump, he just believes." Jean frowned, unsure what that meant. Jean approached the monk cautiously. "Sir, how do you float like that?" The monk opened his eyes slowly, a gentle smile forming. "One step at a time, Jean. First, you must control your mind." Jean scratched his head. "Control my mind? I can't even wake up on time." The monk laughed softly, a sound like gentle wind. "Start with small victories, Jean. Discipline begins with tiny steps." The monk waved his hand, and suddenly Jean saw a line of tiny, glowing stones on the ground. "Walk on them every morning, slowly. Each step strengthens your mind." Jean hesitated, looking at the small, glowing stones. Jean placed one foot on a stone, then another. It felt like walking on clouds. His heart raced. I can do this," he whispered, surprising himself. Days passed. Jean woke early, walked on the stones, then cleaned his room, and even cooked for himself. He felt strange, proud. "Maybe discipline isn't punishment after all," he said softly. One morning, the monk appeared at Jean's window. "See, small victories lead to bigger ones. Your mind is stronger now," he said, pointing at Jean's organized room. Jean smiled, realizing the truth in the monk's words. Jean felt a tiny spark inside him. "If I can wake up early, maybe I can do more," he thought. He started planning his day, writing little goals on a scrap of paper. The next morning, Jean woke even before sunrise. He stretched, feeling the cool air on his face. "It feels peaceful," he whispered, noticing the quiet streets and soft light. He walked to the glowing stones in the square. Each step felt lighter, as if the stones themselves encouraged him. Jean realized, even small efforts can feel magical if I focus. A little boy ran up to Jean. "Why do you walk on the light stones?" he asked, curious. Jean laughed softly. "To make my mind strong, one step at a time." Days turned into weeks. Jean began to notice changes. He could focus, wake up on time, and even help his neighbors. Each small act built a quiet confidence in him. One afternoon, Jean sat by a river, tossing small pebbles into the water. He noticed the ripples spreading slowly, then stopped to think. Maybe life is like this river. Small actions can create far-reaching waves. The monk appeared silently beside him, floating on a soft pillar of light. "You understand now, don't you?" he said gently. Jean nodded slowly, awe on his face. "But what if I fail?" Jean asked nervously. The monk smiled. "Failure is only proof you tried. The strongest grow from it." Jean's heart felt lighter. Jean spent hours practicing small things, waking early, helping neighbors, and walking on the glowing stones. Each day felt like climbing a tiny, invisible mountain. One evening, Jean sat quietly on the hill, watching the sunset. He realized he was no longer the lazy, restless boy he had been. A calm strength hummed quietly inside him. The next morning, Jean woke before the rooster crowed. He stretched and smiled, feeling a tiny thrill of pride. Maybe discipline isn't so hard after all, he thought. He walked to the glowing stones, now feeling a sense of excitement instead of fear. Each step felt like a tiny heartbeat of courage. Jean whispered, "One step closer to myself." A sudden rain started, drizzling lightly. Jean didn't run. He walked slowly, feeling the droplets on his face. "Life will test me," he murmured, "but I will keep moving." By the afternoon, Jin's neighbors noticed a change. He offered help without being asked, smiled more, and seemed lighter. The villagers whispered, "He's different now." That evening, Jean sat with a monk at the edge of the square. "What changed inside me?" he asked softly. The monk pointed at the glowing stones. "Your steps became your strength." Jean spent the next weeks practicing even more, waking early, helping others, and walking on the stones in the rain or sun. He noticed that effort, patience, and small victories brought him joy. One night, Jean lay under the stars. He thought about his old lazy self, scrolling on his phone, and laughed softly. "I almost wasted my life doing nothing," he whispered. The monk appeared silently beside him, glowing softly. "You have learned patience and courage," he said. Jean felt a deep warmth inside. "Remember," the monk whispered, "life is built on tiny steps. Each choice, each action, shapes your strength." Jean nodded, feeling the truth in every word. From that day, Jean walked with a new purpose. Even ordinary tasks became meaningful. The village noticed, the neighbors smiled, and Jean felt alive. Jean woke up before dawn every day now. Even the cold mornings didn't bother him. "Discipline feels strange, but wonderful," he whispered. He practiced walking on the glowing stones, even when villagers laughed or stared. "Their thoughts don't matter," he thought. "Only my steps do." A little boy ran to Jean with a toy wooden sword. "Teach me to be strong like you," he said eagerly. Jean laughed. "Strength begins inside, not with a sword," he replied. Jean started teaching the boy small daily habits, waking early, helping neighbors, and practicing patience. Each lesson was a tiny step, but the boy's eyes sparkled with excitement. Weeks later, Jean noticed how strong he felt inside. He no longer feared challenges, and even the smallest tasks brought satisfaction. "I'm finally learning the true power of effort," he thought. The monk appeared again, floating gently above the stones. "Your inner strength shines, Jean," he said. "But remember, life always tests even the strongest." Jean nodded, understanding that effort and patience never ended. "I will keep walking, no matter what," he said softly. A breeze rustled through his hair, carrying a sense of freedom. That night, Jean helped a lost child find his home. The boy's parents hugged Jean, gratitude shining in their eyes. "Strength isn't just for you," Jean realized. The monk appeared one last time in the square, floating on a soft pillar of light. "Your journey is just beginning," he said. Jean felt a deep calm, knowing he could face whatever came next. Jean finally understood. Strength was not in muscles or magic, but in patience, discipline, and small consistent actions. He smiled, feeling light, free, and alive. Days turned into months. Jean continued his daily habits without fail. Each step, each small act, felt like a quiet victory in his heart. One rainy afternoon, a stranger approached Jean. "How do you stay so calm and strong?" the man asked. Jean laughed softly. "It's not magic. It's small steps, every day." The stranger smiled, intrigued. "I want to learn too," he said. Jean nodded, realizing his small actions could inspire others. Jean began teaching others in the village. Early risers, small helpers, and curious children all followed his example. Slowly, the village felt brighter, calmer, and happier. One evening, Jean reflected on his journey. "I've changed," he whispered. He remembered his old lazy habits and felt a quiet pride in his persistence. The monk appeared once more, glowing softly. "You see now, Gene, that real strength comes from within. It grows with patience and small, consistent actions. Gene nodded slowly, feeling the truth of the monk's words. I will never forget this lesson, he whispered. The light within him glowed quietly, steady, and warm. Weeks later, Gene helped a traveler carry a heavy basket across the village. He laughed with the traveler, feeling joy in simple kindness. Strength is in action, not in waiting, he said quietly. Children followed him, eager to learn. He taught them small daily actions, patience, and care for others. Gene realized he was planting seeds of strength everywhere he went. The village began to change. Streets felt lighter, laughter came more easily, and small acts of kindness multiplied. Gene smiled, knowing effort had a ripple effect. One morning, Gene stood on the hill, watching the sunrise. He felt connected to the world, to people, and to himself. I'm stronger than I ever imagined, he whispered. The monk appeared, floating on a pillar of soft light, smiling. Your journey shows that patience, discipline, and small actions build true strength. Gene nodded, feeling a deep inner calm. Gene took a deep breath. He knew life would always have challenges, but now he had learned the power of small, consistent steps and the courage to keep moving forward. From that day on, Gene lived with purpose, helping others, learning every day, and walking his own path of light. He had become the boy who once waited for life, now a young man creating it. Gene finally understood. Strength is not in magic, muscles, or luck. It is in patience, discipline, and every small choice we make. He smiled, ready for whatever life would bring next. Remember, your smallest daily actions can create ripples of strength in your life. Take one step, be patient, and watch yourself grow. Share this story with someone who needs a little light today.